So picture this. You're sitting in your home office trying to focus on a spreadsheet.
Right.
You're just typing away, maybe reaching for your coffee, shifting in your chair. Totally normal stuff.
Yeah, just a regular Tuesday.
Exactly. But sitting about, I don't know, 4 feet away from you is this creature that was genetically engineered to manage hundreds of unruly sheep across a rugged mountainside.
A literal herding machine, yeah.
Right. And right now, instead of scanning a horizon, that intensely intelligent dog is just staring a hole straight through your laptop.
Tracking every single move.
Every blink, every twitch, every sigh you make, just waiting for you to give them an assignment.
It's a profoundly intense dynamic to bring into a suburban living room, honestly.
It really is.
Because we tend to view dogs primarily as companions, right?
Yeah.
Like, they just slot into our existing lifestyle.
Buy the plush bed, get the nice ceramic bowls.
Yeah, you toss a tennis ball for like 15 minutes after work, and the dog is just happy to be along for the ride.
But when you look at certain highly driven working breeds, that entire passive companion model just completely shatters.
really does.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in a remarkably comprehensive transcript from the Australian Shepherd Health Academy.
It's a great source.
It really is. And our mission for you today is to basically cut through all the abstract training jargon, skip the basic historical trivia, and answer one grounded question.
Which is, what does an actual Tuesday look like if you share your life with an Australian Shepherd?
Exactly. So whether you're actively considering bringing one of these dogs into your life, or you're just, fascinated by how humans and highly intelligent working animals coexist in the modern world.
That deep dive is really your shortcut to understanding the everyday reality of the breed.
Sure.
It's a brilliant masterclass in animal psychology, really.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Before we even sketch out a daily schedule, we have to understand the fundamental blueprint of this animal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if you don't grasp what they were built to do, literally nothing they do in your house is going to make sense to you.
It's just going to seem like chaos.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
So we have to look at the environment that forged them. This is a dog bred over generations to thrive in vast, incredibly difficult terrain.
Right.
But the key isn't just their physical endurance,
Yeah.
It's the cognitive demand.
Brain power.
Yes. They were trusted to manage livestock independently. So unlike some breeds that constantly look back to the shepherd for, like, micro commands.
Like, wait, what do I do now? What do I do now?
Exactly. And Aussie was bred to make autonomous decisions out on the range. They assess threats, they anticipate movement, all without a human dictating every single step.
They're hardwired for purposeful, proactive engagement at, like, a cellular level.
Exactly.
And here's where it gets really interesting for anyone living in just a normal house. Because when you bring that specific genetic blueprint into a modern home, that drive doesn't just evaporate.
No, not at all.
Just because you don't happen to have a flock of sheep grazing by your sofa.
Right. The drive has to go somewhere. So the dog simply redirects that massive cognitive machinery toward you.
You become the flock.
You become the flock. Your family routines, the kids playing in the hallway, the delivery guy dropping off a package that is their new terrain.
They don't just want to passively share your home. They're demanding to share your purpose.
Yeah, a working drive in a domestic setting translates directly into this really intense emotional and social attunement. A dog that was bred to read the subtle body language of a sheep from 50 yards away. They're going to apply that exact same laser focus to your moods.
Your physical movement.
Your daily schedule, everything. They're seeking an active partnership.
The best analogy I could think of while we were prepping for this deep dive is that bringing an Aussie into your home is basically like hiring a highly proactive middle manager.
I love that analogy. It's so accurate.
Right. Because if you do not formally assign them a project, they're going to invent one to justify their existence.
And you are probably not going to like the project they invent.
Definitely not. They'll decide their new job is, I don't know, guarding the front window from squirrels, or reorganizing your recycling bin.
Or aggressively herding the robot vacuum cleaner into a corner.
Yes, exactly.
Because a middle manager thrives on anticipating needs and structuring chaos. For a working dog, that translates to controlling movement.
Controlling movement, right.
If they aren't given a constructive outlet for that instinct, They will try to manage the movement of your household.
And that psychological need for a shared task is like the single most important factor in their well-being, according to the sources.
It really is the foundation of everything.
So if their whole world revolves around this shared purpose, we kind of have to rethink the physical space they inhabit, right?
Yeah, which completely dismantles what is probably the biggest misconception out there about the breed.
Oh, the farm myth? Yes, the farm myth.
The pervasive idea that to ethically own an Australian Shepherd, you inherently must live on a farm or have, like, vast, rolling acreage. It's entirely false.
It really is. A big backyard does absolutely nothing to replace human interaction.
Nothing.
You could have 50 acres in the country, but if you just open your back door and let the dog out to entertain themselves,
That dog is going to be wildly unfulfilled.
bored and probably destructive.
Because acreage is just geography. Acreage is not a job.
Wow, acreage is not a job. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, what dictates this breed's psychological health is the quality of the engagement, not the square footage of the property line.
So practically speaking, an Aussie in an apartment.
A dog living in a small city apartment with a highly committed owner, someone who does regular structured walks, dedicated obedience training, daily mental enrichment puzzles,
They're going to do better.
they're going to thrive vastly more than a rural dog left alone to patrol an empty yard.
Okay, let's quantify that for the listener. What does that actual daily requirement look like?
We are talking about an hour and a half to 2 hours of genuinely dedicated focused time.
And that's spread throughout the day, right?
Right. It requires morning physical engagement to burn off sleep energy.
Like a run or fetch.
Yeah. Then some midday mental enrichment to tire out their brain, and a structured evening activity.
But looking at that schedule, it brings up a scenario I really want to push back on.
Let's hear it.
The work from home paradox.
Yeah.
Because you'd think that being home all day is the absolute jackpot for a dog with attachment needs.
You would think so.
But the sources say being physically present while working from home on your laptop, but actively ignoring the dog, can actually make them significantly more stressed and restless than if you just packed up and went to an office.
It's totally true.
Wait, how does my constant presence make my dog more anxious? I don't get that.
To understand that, we have to separate physical proximity from active engagement. You have to look at how a dog perceives our presence.
Okay.
If you leave the house at 8 a.m., the dog understands the rhythm of that routine. The human is gone, the pack is inactive, the environment is static.
So it's a clear signal to just sleep.
Exactly. It tells their brain it's time to power down.
But if I'm home...
If you're home, sitting at your kitchen island, the pack is active. To an intensely observant working breed, you shifting in your chair, taking phone calls, getting up to make coffee.
Those are all signals.
Micro signals of activity, yeah. The human is doing something. And remember your middle manager analogy.
They want in on the project.
Desperately. So the frustration of being physically near you, but entirely locked out of the activity, it just builds immense psychological restlessness.
They're essentially waiting on standby for 8 hours straight.
Yes.
So they are constantly in a state of high alert, waiting for me to give them an assignment that never comes. That sounds exhausting for the dog.
It is. Which is precisely why working from home with this breed requires rigid, structured routines.
Like what?
You have to implement defined active periods where you are fully engaged with them,
Okay.
and then strictly enforce settled periods where they are instructed to go to a mat or a crate and turn their brains off.
So you have to provide the off switch.
Exactly. Their brain needs you to provide that switch so they don't engage in constant pestering. You basically have to explicitly teach them that proximity does not equal availability.
Proximity does not equal availability. That is huge. Okay, so you get your WFH schedule locked down, you enforce your settled periods.
Right.
But a house isn't just a physical space with you and your laptop. It's a dynamic social ecosystem.
Very much so.
How does a hyper-attuned, boundary-pushing working dog navigate the rest of the world? You know, kids, other pets, the Amazon delivery driver.
Well, the family dynamic is fascinating because of their deep attentiveness. They don't typically imprint on just one primary handler and ignore everyone else.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they bond deeply with the entire household. They're constantly reading the emotional temperature of every family member.
So they're great with kids then?
They can adapt beautifully to kids and teenagers. A teenager who takes an active role in training or dog sports can form a profound, almost symbiotic bond with an Aussie.
But there is a massive caveat in the Academy transcript regarding that herding instinct with younger children, right?
Huge caveat, yeah.
If you have toddlers running through the backyard sprinkler, squealing, darting around.
That triggers the exact predatory motor sequence this dog was bred to execute.
Right. So families have to actively manage and redirect that instinct. You can't just act surprised when your dog starts nipping at the heels of your 5-year-old trying to round them up into the kitchen.
No, you really can't. And there's another consideration for older adults listening, too.
What's that?
If you are an older adult drawn to the breed's intelligence, you have to be highly realistic about the raw physical strength required for leash handling.
Yeah, they aren't small.
No, this is an athletic, powerful 30 to 60-pound animal with a low center of gravity. It's a practical reality check about physical capabilities.
For sure. Now, expanding that ecosystem to other pets, can an Australian Shepherd live peacefully with a house cat? Or integrate with other dogs?
The answer is absolutely yes. But the mechanics of the introduction are crucial. Introductions have to be gradual, highly structured, and calm.
So you can't just drop a new kitten onto the living room floor and hope they figure it out.
Please don't do that. Because their primary instinct is to react instantly to sudden movement.
Right, a darting kitten looks exactly like a stray lamb that needs to be chased down.
Yes. But once you systematically teach them that the cat or the other dog is a permanent fixture of their household.
That they are part of the flock.
Exactly. Once they know that, that same intense social attunement kicks in. They redirect their guarding instinct to protect that animal, and they can form incredibly close relationships with other pets.
So they view the cat and the kids as their flock. But the flip side of having a flock is the instinct to guard it from outsiders.
Right.
Let's look at what happens when that delivery driver knocks on the door or a friend comes over for dinner.
Alert barking is an entirely natural, deeply ingrained behavior for them.
So you shouldn't punish them for it.
You are not going to train that instinct out of them completely. Nor should you want to. It is the job they were designed to do.
So how do you manage it?
The key is in the partnership. A well-socialized Aussie will bark to alert you to the anomaly at the perimeter. But they will immediately settle once they read your calm energy welcoming the guest.
They look to you as the lead.
Yes. They look to you to say, I see the visitor, I am welcoming them in, you can stand down.
They're just doing their security sweep and handing the situation over to the boss. I love that.
Exactly.
But speaking of how they react to stimuli, I want to challenge a label that gets slapped on working breeds constantly.
Okay.
People always label Australian Shepherds as hyperactive. But based on the sources, looking at the reality of their cognitive needs, it sounds like hyperactive is just a lazy label we put on a profoundly bored dog.
I'm so glad you brought this up. It is a vital distinction to make.
So is that what's actually happening here?
Yes. A well-engaged, fulfilled adult Australian Shepherd is perfectly capable of calm, settled behavior in the house.
So why do we see them bouncing off the walls?
Because when people see a dog destroying furniture and pacing incessantly, they assume the dog is just naturally chaotic or lacks an off switch.
Right.
But physiologically and psychologically, there is a massive difference between a dog that lacks an off switch and a dog that simply hasn't been given the cognitive fatigue necessary to allow its nervous system to power down.
Wow. So the pacing and the destruction are actually just unspent mental energy crying out for a complex task.
Exactly. We are looking at an animal trapped in a loop of frustration, not an animal that is inherently hyperactive.
So expecting a working dog to naturally entertain itself, or assuming they'll just outgrow it,
is a guaranteed recipe for that exact destructive behavior. They do not outgrow their genetics.
Man, okay, so that covers the dynamics inside the house. But life isn't just lived in the living room.
True.
What happens when you take this incredibly attuned, high-energy partnership out into the broader world? And honestly, we need to address the physical maintenance and the financial reality required to keep this biological machine running.
Taking them on the road is a great example of where their specific attachment style truly shines.
No.
Because they possess such a constant burning desire for proximity to their people, they often travel remarkably well in cars.
They just want to be with you.
Right.
Yeah.
They make phenomenal camping companions. They vastly prefer to be included in the chaos of an adventure rather than being left behind in a quiet house.
But you still have to manage their environment, obviously. You need secure harnesses, travel crates.
Safety is key. Yeah.
And the sources mention that if you take away their static home environment, you have to replace it with structural consistency so they still feel secure in their job.
Exactly. Bringing their familiar bedding,
Yeah.
maintaining exact feeding times,
Yeah.
keep the routines intact even if the zip code changes.
And if you absolutely cannot take them with you, that same intense attachment style means boarding can be a huge hurdle.
It can be highly traumatic, actually. Being dropped off in an entirely unfamiliar, loud environment filled with strange dogs and humans, it's really hard for a breed this deeply devoted to its core family.
So what's the solution?
If you plan to travel without them, you have to do gradual, positive introductions to pet sitters or boarding facilities months before you actually need them. You can't just drop an Aussie off for a 2-week vacation out of nowhere and expect them to be fine.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Now, we cannot do a deep dive on Australian Shepherds without talking about the physical exterior.
The fluff.
The fluff, the grooming. We know brushing a few times a week is mandatory. They blow their coats heavily during seasonal changes.
Yes, shedding is intense.
But I was fascinated by the mechanics of their double coat. It acts as insulation for both cold and extreme heat. I realized, looking at the source, their double coat is essentially functioning like a high-tech vacuum thermos.
A vacuum thermos is a brilliant way to conceptualize the thermodynamics of their coat.
Right, because a high-quality thermos keeps your coffee incredibly hot in the freezing winter, but if you fill it with ice water, it keeps it perfectly cold in the blazing summer.
Exactly. The Aussie's dense undercoat traps a layer of temperate air against their skin.
So it protects them from freezing winds on a winter ranch.
But in the summer, that exact same thermos effect can dangerously trap core body heat during a vigorous run.
Leading to heat stroke.
Yes, if the owner isn't careful. It illustrates perfectly how these physical traits are direct inheritances from their working heritage.
Kept them alive on the range, but in the suburbs, it requires proactive management.
You have to monitor their thermal regulation.
Yeah.
And you cannot just shave a double-coated dog because you destroy that natural thermos effect.
Do not shave the dog. Got it. Which brings us to a very pragmatic reality. The cost.
Yeah.
The financial commitment. This is not a budget-friendly companion. They are meaningfully more expensive than your average lower maintenance breed.
The financial footprint is substantial. You are looking at premium, high-protein food to fuel a highly athletic metabolism.
And the activities.
Ongoing costs for advanced training classes, agility courses, scent work, which, as we've established, are not optional luxuries.
They're a requirement for mental health.
Ex
And the specific veterinary care is where it really caught my attention. There is a specific genetic vulnerability called the MDR1 mutation.
Yes, very common in herding breeds.
I want to make sure we explain this clearly because it isn't just an allergy. The MDR1 gene mutation fundamentally alters how the dog's blood-brain barrier functions.
Yes. So the MDR1 gene is responsible for producing a specific protein called P-glycoprotein.
Oh,
You can think of this protein as a microscopic bouncer at the door of the dog's brain.
a bouncer.
Yeah, its job is to pump toxins and drugs out of the brain tissue and back into the bloodstream. In dogs with the MDR1 mutation, that bouncer is missing. The pump is broken.
So medications that are completely safe for a golden
It
retriever.
can cross right into an Aussie's brain and just stay there, building up to toxic levels.
Wow.
Common veterinary drugs like certain anesthesia agents, anti-diarrhea medications, and especially ivermectin.
Which is in a lot of heartworm preventatives, right?
Standard ingredient.
Yeah.
It can become neurotoxic, it can cause tremors, seizures, or even be fatal.
That's terrifying.
It is. If you own this breed, you must proactively test for this mutation. And you have to work with a vet who is intimately familiar with herding breed genetics.
So when you stack all of this up, the daily hour and a half of dedicated cognitive engagement,
The grooming.
the grooming requirements, the absolute necessity for a shared purpose, the financial realities of specialized vet care, who actually thrives with this dog? Who is the ultimate match?
Well, if we look at first-time dog owners, it is not categorically impossible.
Okay.
But the caveat is massive. A first-time owner can succeed only if they have ruthlessly realistic expectations and are willing to completely alter their lifestyle to accommodate the engagement.
So it's not about how many dogs you've had before.
Exactly. It's entirely about the quality of life you are prepared to live with the dog in front of you.
But the profile of who this dog is absolutely not for is crystal clear in the transcript.
Oh, yeah.
If you are looking for a low-maintenance, independent companion who will happily snooze on the sofa for 12 hours a day while you binge-watch television,
This will be a nightmare for both of you.
nightmare. And if you think a large, fenced-in yard will do the heavy lifting of entertaining your dog, do not get an Australian Shepherd.
It is a brutally honest matching exercise. You have to assess your actual lifestyle, not your aspirational lifestyle.
Not your aspirational lifestyle. Ouch, but true. Let's talk about life transitions, though. Because a dog lives for 12 to 15 years, no one's life stays static for that long.
Right.
Bringing a new baby home is a classic transition, and the source says it can work beautifully if you rely on the breed's intelligence.
You prepare them gradually, introducing the new sounds, the lotions, the baby gear weeks beforehand, really leveraging their need for predictable routine.
But here is a hypothetical I want to run by you regarding career transitions. Say an owner gets a massive promotion. Suddenly, they're working a highly demanding career, 60 hours a week, maybe traveling.
Okay.
Does that mean a highly driven dog like this is completely incompatible with a demanding career?
It's a very common, very real scenario.
Yeah.
And the answer requires nuance.
So it's not an automatic deal breaker.
The demanding career is not an automatic disqualifier. That means you have to rehome your dog. But it absolutely mandates deliberate, proactive planning.
You can't just wing it.
You cannot wing it and hope the dog adapts to your absence. If you are working 60 hours a week, you are financially committing to high-quality doggy daycare.
Hiring dog walkers.
Reliable, professional dog walkers to break up their day. And crucially, it means you forfeit your weekends.
Wow.
Your days off must be fully, intensely dedicated to the hiking, the advanced training, and the engaging activities that fill that dog's cup.
So you can have the demanding corporate job, but keeping this dog cognitively fulfilled essentially becomes your second demanding job.
Pretty much.
You are outsourcing the midday physical needs, but you still have to show up as their partner.
That is the core of it.
Yeah.
It is an emotional commitment above all else. This animal asks a tremendous amount of you. It asks for your time, your undivided focus, and your energy.
But in return,
It offers a profoundly deep, attuned partnership that is incredibly rare to find anywhere else.
that's beautiful. So bringing all these insights together, living with an Australian Shepherd is not about real estate. It's not about having an idyllic farm. It is about active daily engagement. It's about enforcing structured routines so their hypervigilant brains are allowed to rest.
And above all, it is about respecting their intelligence enough to invite them to share in your daily purpose. And as we close out today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a broader thought to really mull over.
Let's hear it.
Humans spent generations deliberately, selectively breeding an animal to be this exquisitely socially attuned, this desperate for a shared job, and this dependent on predictable routine to feel secure and settled.
Right.
When we look at how lost, how restless, and how profoundly destructive these dogs become when they are stripped of a clear sense of purpose, what does holding up that mirror teach us about our own human need to feel useful, engaged, and connected in our own daily lives?
Man, that is a phenomenal perspective. Maybe the reason we are so drawn to these intense working dogs is that they show us, without any filter, exactly what we need for our own fulfillment, too.
I think so.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you walk away with a completely transformed perspective on what it means to truly partner with a working breed. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, if you don't give your middle manager a project, you only have yourself to blame when the living room gets completely reorganized. Catch you next time.